In the A Ghost of Winterfell chapter of A Dance with Dragons, George R.R. Martin introduced a mystery character, a man whom hardcore fans refer to as the Hooded Man, since he had a hooded cloak flapping behind him. A cool interpretation of the Hooded Man is that he is just one of Theon's split personalities shortly before Theon remembers who he really is. But the line, "How is it you still breathe?" suggests that the Hooded Man was an actual man who was surprised that Theon Turncloak was still alive. So who was the Hooded Man? There are a lot of options, which we will cover, but one stands above the rest. As we went over in the last video, Jon Snow had a vision of Benjen Stark dead in the snow. And although George R.R. Martin may have tried to trick fans, Benjen is probably Cold Hands, but even if you don't buy that, even if Benjen is not Cold Hands, it is unlikely that Benjen will be down in Winterfell, since Benjen is the definition of a loyal crow, through and through, honor-bound to the Night's Watch, more than almost any other crow. So if Benjen were still alive, he would be with or doing something on behalf of his new brothers, the Brothers of the Night's Watch. Next up, Galbert Glover. Robb Stark sent Galbert Glover to Seaguard with Mage Mormon and Jason Mallister, and ordered them to connect with Howland Reed. We do not know what happened to Mage and Galbert, but Jason Mallister is now a prisoner in his own castle of Seaguard. And for what it's worth, Lady Catelyn thought that Galbert Glover lacked the Blackfish's brilliance. So it could be him since he's MIA right now, but it's probably someone more important to the Winterfell subplots. Before we get to the two most likely candidates, let's give a shout out to Harwin, son of Hullen, Winterfell's former master of horse. Harwin was part of Lord Eddard's guard, but Ned sent Harwin out with Beric Dondarrion to make the Mountain answer for his crimes. Ever since, Harwin has been part of the Brotherhood without banners. When the Brotherhood found Lady Catelyn's body, Harwin begged Thoros to give her the kiss of life, but Thoros refused to do so as she had been dead too long. So Beric did instead, and the flame of life passed from him to her. We don't know if Harwin is still with the Brotherhood under the leadership of Lady Stoneheart, or if he decided to leave, but if Harwin were to leave, Harwin's loyalties might still lie with the small folk in the war-torn Riverlands rather than with those of Winterfell. So Harwin is also unlikely, and then we've got Hallis Malin. Hallis Malin was last seen riding north with Ned Stark's bones, so if it were him, then he may have returned Ned Stark's bones to the crypts, but he's not the only one who may have returned Ned's bones. That leads us into the two most likely candidates, Brynden Tully, aka the Blackfish, and Sir Reynold Westerling. When Jaime Lannister took over Riverrun, the Blackfish swam under the portcullis. Similarly, Reynold Westerling was shot in the shoulder and gut during the Red Wedding, but he managed to reach the wall walk and throw himself over into the river. George R.R. Martin specifically had Jaime Lannister ask if they had found his corpse afterwards, and they had not. So Reynold Westerling and the Blackfish are two great candidates for the Hooded Man of Winterfell. Which one is more likely? Jaime had no doubt the Blackfish meant to continue to fight, and Jaime even wondered, where would I go if I were the Blackfish? So the Blackfish definitely has a role to play in the upcoming story, which is great news since the Blackfish is one of the coolest characters in the story. And the Blackfish was fond of his niece Catelyn, so there's no argument to be made that he went north to get revenge. However, if he did, he wouldn't be casually walking around inside Winterfell without his hood even covering his face, because a lot of people there would know who he was. On top of that, Brynden's older brother, Hoster Tully, died, and his nephew Edmure Tully is now effectively a prisoner. So odds are, the Blackfish's eyes are set on Riverrun. Since the Blackfish was Knight of the Bloody Gate for years, he may go to the Vale for a respite or to find allies, but regardless, it makes the most sense from a storytelling perspective for the black sheep of the family, the Blackfish, to focus on getting back Riverrun. Reynold Westerling, on the other hand, has a very specific reason to go north. Revenge for Robb Stark. Reynold was Robb Stark's brother-in-law. According to Lady Cat, Robb seemed to enjoy the company of Reynold and his younger brother Rollum. It was as if young Rollum filled the place of Bran, and Reynold filled the places of Jon Snow and Theon. The only time that Catelyn ever saw Robb smile and laugh during the war was when he was with the Westerlings. So Robb was fond of Reynold, and presumably Reynold was fond of Robb as well. Not just as his king, but as his friend, as his brother-in-law, as his brother. Reynold did not know about the Red Wedding plan, so he was blindsided by what transpired. When the Freys demanded his sword during the Red Wedding, Reynold allegedly gave it over meek enough, but when the crossbowmen began to feather Greywind, Reynold seized Waylon Frey's axe and cut Greywind loose of the net they'd thrown over him. That's when Reynold got shot twice and managed to reach the wall walk and throw himself into the river. So if Reynold survived, it makes the most sense for him to rendezvous with Howland Reed and then make his way up to Winterfell for revenge against the Boltons and Freys, who betrayed his brother, Robb Stark. He may even have met up with Hallis Mullen and brought Ned's bones up to Winterfell. But more importantly, if Reynold was the Hooded Man, that would explain why the Hooded Man put his hand on his dagger when he came face to face with Theon, Robb Stark's new brother, Reynold, looking into the eyes of the brother who betrayed Robb, and Reynold thought about killing him.